Hello, I'm the Nordic Investor, welcome back. I'm Swedish and I moved to Brazil over 5 years ago. And in this channel I talk about my life here in Brazil and also how I've stopped working and live off my investments. And in today's video I want to talk about what $10 gets you here in Brazil. Now I did a video about the cost of living in Brazil a few months ago and I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. But today I just wanted to show you, if you've got $10, what are you able to buy here in Brazil? So let's begin. Okay, so for those of you who aren't too familiar with Brazil, the currency in Brazil is the real, and currently the currency exchange rate is $1 for 5 reais. So basically $10 is 50 reais. So in this video I'm going to show you what 50 reais gets you here in Brazil. Now Brazil is a very big country, so prices are a bit different depending on where you live in Brazil. And in general, in the north and the northeast, things are a bit cheaper. Down in the south, prices are a bit higher, and that's where I live. So I live in a small town in the countryside here in the south. And then finally, prices are even higher in the southeast, and that's where you got the big cities of Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. And also in general in the big cities, prices are a bit higher than the small towns as well. So basically what I'm going to show you here in this video are the prices of living in the south of Brazil in a small town. Okay, so let's start off with an easy one, which is restaurants. So here in my town there are loads of different restaurants and I can easily have a good meal for between 20 and 30 reais. So that's between $4 and $6. Now a lot of these restaurants are buffet restaurants, so that's very common here in Brazil, and in my town I'd say 70-80% of the restaurants are buffet restaurants. And some restaurants you choose your food and then you weigh it and you pay a price per kilo, and in other restaurants there's a fixed price and you can eat as much as you want. And if you go to a nice decent restaurant here in my town, you'll spend between 20 and 30 reais. Now these are nice restaurants, they've got big buffets, so they've got a big salad bar, they've got beef, chicken, some fish, they usually have a barbecue as well, so you can choose some barbecue meats, and then lots of pastas, and then obviously rice and beans, which you'll have in most restaurants. Now there are cheaper restaurants where you can pay like 15 to 20 reais for a meal, but there the selection is a lot more limited, and yeah, the food isn't as nice. And obviously you've got a lot more expensive restaurants as well, where you can spend 100 reais for a meal, which is $20, and that's a lot more exclusive. And obviously you've got fast food as well, so you've got McDonald's, you've got Burger King, KFC. And last time I went to McDonald's I paid 29 reais for a Big Mac, Coke and fries, which is $5.80. So basically you can easily buy lunch or dinner for 2 people for 50 reais. Now there's no way I could have a meal in a decent restaurant in Europe for $4 to $6, so these prices are a lot lower, but I guess the costs in the fast food restaurants are more or less the same. Now the thing you can do for 50 reais is go to the cinema. So just to show you the prices. So it's a Cinemark, which is a chain of cinemas here in Brazil. So if I choose one of the current movies, I think there's this Blue Beetle here that my daughter wants to see. And here you can see the price of a ticket for an adult is 43 reais, which is just over $8. A ticket for a child is 21 reais, so $4. But actually you can get these tickets for a lot less. So actually if you are a client of a big bank which is called Bradesco here in Brazil, you can get an adult ticket for 21 reais as well. Or if you have a credit card with Elo, or if you use Vivo, which is a mobile phone provider, you can also get it for 21 reais. And because we have this, we only pay 21 reais to go to the cinema. So we don't go very often, but when we do, that's what we pay. So you can see here that the prices for a normal ticket here, just over $8, isn't that different to America and Europe. I think I usually pay between $10 and $15 to go to the cinema in Europe, so the prices aren't too different here. But if you're able to use these discounts with these companies, then the price drops a lot. But I think there's similar schemes in Europe and America as well. So basically for 50 reais, $10, 2 people go to the cinema, or 1 person can go and you can buy a popcorn and a drink. Okay, so another thing I want to show you is how much 50 reais gets you at the supermarket. Now Brazil has lots of different supermarkets, just like anywhere else. You've got the posh, really expensive supermarkets, then you've got the normal supermarkets, and then you've got the discount supermarkets, you know, like Lidl and Aldi. Now you don't have those here in Brazil, but you have other brands. I'm going to do another video just about the prices in supermarkets, because a couple of you guys have been asking about that. But here I'm just going to show you how much you can buy for 50 reais. So one of the big supermarket chains in Brazil, I think it's the biggest, is Carrefour. So that's a French supermarket chain, and they've managed to become really big in Brazil as well. Now some supermarkets have actually started with online shopping, so you can buy your groceries online and have it delivered to your house. Now that's mainly in the big cities. For me out here in a small town in the countryside, there's nothing like that. I can't order groceries online and get it delivered. But as you can see, the supermarkets have online stores, and it works in the big cities. And also I can order other things apart from food and get it delivered to me. Okay, so let's see what 50 reais can get you at Carrefour. Okay, so I'm just going to choose some basic things. So for example, for breakfast you want to eat some milk and cereal. Okay, so here you got different brands of milk. One thing with milk is that most of them are in these cartons and they're not refrigerated. They can stay in room temperature. Now I've grown up drinking milk which you have to keep in the fridge, but here this is very common. So here you can see we can buy 1 liter of milk for 3 reais 54. And then maybe you want to buy some cereal. And here in Brazil you got lots of similar brands that you have in Europe and America. So for kids you've got Frosties, you've got Fruit Loops, you've got Crunch and various others. But if we just choose something here, so here's some cornflakes, Nestle cornflakes, and it's $7.29. Now I'm going to show you at the end a spreadsheet just adding up all of these costs, so you don't need to note these down. Okay, so that's kind of breakfast done. Then at lunch, just have a sandwich for lunch. Now, obviously that's not what Brazilians would do. They'd want to have a hot lunch and go to a restaurant, or they would bring food with them from home and heat it at work or something. But if we just have a European lunch of a sandwich, so here you can see you got ready-made baguettes here for 7-8 reais, and then you've got other sandwiches, larger baguettes as well for even more. We just choose a small baguette here, 7 reais 64, and then buy a drink. Now I don't drink Coke every day, but I think it's one of these is just to do a comparison. So you've got a can of Coke for $2.99. And then for dinner, let's have some chicken. Okay, so here you've got lots to choose from. Now some of the chicken is free range, they even got organic as well. But just choosing something simple, so here you've got some chicken breasts, 1.5 kilos for $8.67. And then let's have some rice with that. So you've got a 1 kilo bag of rice for $5.99. And obviously you need some vegetables as well, so let's have some lettuce. So you've got some organic lettuce for $3.49, and let's have some tomatoes with that. So you got some fresh tomatoes for 5 reais. And to finish off, let's have a beer as well. Now some people, they complain about Brazilian beers, not as good as European beers, but I kind of like some Brazilian brands. Not the biggest fan of Skol, but I kind of like Bohemia and Original as well. Now I'm no beer expert here, I just have a couple of cans. But one thing's for sure, and that your beer needs to be very cold. If the Brazilian beers aren't cold, they don't taste very good. The Brazilians, they serve their beers ice cold. So let's have a can of Original, which is $4.39. Okay, so we basically bought 3 meals there, breakfast, lunch and dinner, for 50 reais, $10, so just to show you that on my spreadsheet. Okay, so here's the list of all the items that I chose and the prices. So you can see the prices in Brazilian reais and as well in US dollars. So you can see here I've got the breakfast, the lunch and then the dinner. All comes to 49 reais and now $9.80. And what I found is that certain items here in Brazil are definitely cheaper than Europe and America, so like a lot of the fruits and vegetables and the meat as well, especially beef, is a lot cheaper. But then other things are basically the same price. But in total I spent less at the supermarket here in Brazil than I did in Europe, that's for sure. And I'm going to do another video where I go to supermarkets in Brazil and show you prices for a lot more items and do a more detailed comparison. Okay, so that's kind of what you can spend $10 on in the supermarket. Other things that you could spend that money on are, for example, cleaning your house. So we have a cleaner who comes to our house once a week, and we pay her 70 reais for her to clean the house. And that is 5 hours of work. So she comes at 7 in the morning and leaves at lunchtime, 12 o'clock. So 5 hours. So basically, if you reduce that to 4 hours, it would be about 50 reais. Now that's a lot cheaper than what you would pay in Europe, that's for sure. So we did have a cleaner in Europe, and then we paid her just under $20 per hour to clean the house. And here you can basically get a cleaner to clean for 4 hours for $10. But it isn't just cleaners that are cheap. Also, if you need to call a plumber or an electrician, again, they are much cheaper here as well. And for example, I recently had to call a plumber to sort out a leaking tap. It was a very easy job. He just had to dismantle a tap, change a little rubber ring, and he charged me 50 reais to do that. Obviously, it's something more complicated and will take a lot longer, he would charge more. But just for you to see that you can call a plumber over, he can do a little job, and you'd pay him $10. In Europe, usually the call-out charge is at least $100 just for them to come out to your house. So that's another big difference between Brazil, Europe and America. And if we talk about cars and traveling as well, and so petrol prices here in Brazil, for example, I mean they're constantly changing, but at the moment in my area, 1 liter of petrol is 5 reais 50, so that's $1.10. So for 50 reais you can fill up your car in 9 liters. And that price of $1.10 for 1 liter of petrol I think is similar to America, but it is significantly cheaper than Europe. So for example, in England at the moment, I think it's about £1.48.49, which is $1.88. And in Sweden, the price is $1.95 at the moment. So petrol prices here in Brazil are definitely cheaper than Europe, but I think similar to America. But public transport is significantly cheaper here in Brazil than in Europe. So if you want to get a bus, for example, in my region and travel from one part of the city to the other, it's 4 reais 40, so 88 cents US dollars. So that's pretty cheap. Also, if you want to get a train, the price is 5 reais in my region, which is $1. Now Brazil doesn't have that many train lines and stuff, but there are some. And in my region, for example, there are some train lines connecting various cities, and to use that it's just 5 reais, $1. Now that is significantly cheaper than what the prices are for public transport in Europe where I've lived. I hope you found this video useful. So like I said, I'm going to do more videos talking about some of these specific items in a lot more detail. So I'll do another video dedicated just to supermarkets, where I'll go and visit some supermarkets, also about restaurants and so on, because I know you guys are very interested in the cost of living differences between Brazil and Europe and America. But if you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe. If you've got any questions, just leave in the commentary below. So thanks for watching, until next time.